Oh my god.
The TEF, nice to meet. We take it there like done before. Live from the SAV, but living with these savage thoughts. So by example, no, I lead. Always listen more than I speak. Never too closed off, grew up with open ears. Gotta spread the soul from the heart it reaps. Making sure most moves it will righteous needs. Many misled, giving light and meat. I play a fool to show my humble knees. Seeing their lifestyle, stay unbiased. Knowing they wouldn't be the same for me. They wouldn't dare to be different. What about how everybody politique? Mistake my meekness for reason. I swear I just need some healing. What a wonderful feeling. Oh yeah, I just need some healing. Say what a wonderful feeling. Yeah, I just need some healing. Such a wonderful feeling. Yeah, I just need some healing. Such a wonderful feeling.
Major disclaimer for the ones who wanted to know where I've been. Life been life, and as usual, I had to reevaluate to really understand my approach for content to stay on top of it consistently. But you can bet I'm back at it like it never happened, and you'll mainly see me doing music and reactions, but there's also other things I have planned that I've mentioned in my old videos that I will introduce to y'all gradually. I will have multiple channels, and y'all can check out my other media platforms in the description. Alright, so basically we watching this clip about being wrong. Also to help explain a little more about how people like me, who can most times move and think logically with pure-hearted intentions. Because sometimes I know it takes it coming from someone else or someone who's considered to be more certified, like an actual scientist explaining it scientifically, which in my defense can be hypocritical on another level and shows how people are and how their understanding can be as a person in general. When I've been explained it before this, to be honest, but hey, it is what it is. Let's get into it.
I thought I'd do an explainer on being wrong.
Interesting. Something, quite frankly, that I would think you're unfamiliar with. Being Neil deGrasse Tyson.
No. So I was once asked.
Yeah.
You know, I give a public talk and
Always.
Q&A at the end.
Right.
And someone said, when was the last time you were wrong?
Interesting.
And I almost didn't understand the question. I had to think hard about what the person meant by that question.
Okay.
And I realized there are levels of being wrong.
Okay.
And
That's
I
true.
don't think she meant all levels. Okay.
And why not?
Because, for example, all right, I'll be home at 6. And you get home at 6:15. You were
Covered in glitter. What happened?
So you were wrong.
Right.
But no, that's not a federal case to be made of that.
No, it isn't.
And you were just wrong. Another one is, let's go left here instead of right. That'll be the fastest way home. And then there's traffic.
Oh my goodness.
So you were wrong again.
Yes.
Right. So there's all these daily things where you're wrong. And so I'm still trying to figure out what she means by this. Because I'm saying, well, wrong all the time. Wait, where are you coming from?
Everyone is wrong
here?
all the time.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes. So I started ascending the wrong ladder to find the place where I thought she might have meant. And let me go through scientific wrong, okay? When you are on the frontier, most of the time you're wrong.
Right.
Because there's not enough evidence, or the quality of the evidence doesn't justify being right. All you can say is, this may be the case. I think it's this. And then someone has better data or more data, and they show you that you're wrong.
So this, what you're just pointing out right now, was the biggest mistake with respect to information being given about COVID-19.
Yes, precisely. Because people are thinking, well, if a scientist speaks, it must be right.
Right.
Well, when I say E = MC squared, yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Okay, because we know that's true.
Right.
We have the benefit of decades of theory, experiment, and observation.
So much so that it now becomes a law.
We can call it a law if you want. We stopped calling things law.
Yeah.
We did, just because until the 20th century, it was laws of thermodynamics, laws of gravity, laws of electricity, and then we just stopped that.
Right, yeah.
Because we found that as thorough and as accurate and as brilliant as all those laws were, we realize that they may be incomplete.
Ooh, I love
And
that.
that's different from being wrong.
Yes.
It's a whole other different thing.
Oh, that's lovely.
Okay, so
incomplete.
It's just incomplete.
Well, the grade I got the most in college.
Incomplete. I forgot about that grade.
Remember that incomplete?
I forgot about
You forgot
Man,
that?
don't give me an F. I'll just.
I am not failing anything. Okay?
I'm just gonna be incomplete.
Yes.
INC.
Yeah,
Period.
INC. I'm just listening. This is gonna cost me a few more dollars for these credits, but I'm incomplete.
I forgot
I'm
all about
taking it again.
the incomplete grade.
Yeah.
All right. So we would find that classical mechanics, as brilliant and as effective and as much as it explained to the world,
Right.
it didn't explain the whole world.
Right.
And we needed a deeper understanding. Then quantum physics comes in. We are in the centennial decade of the development of quantum physics as a branch of physics.
That's how young it is.
100 years. Yeah. It's the youngest of the major branches of. There are other branches like quantum chromodynamics and things, but basically, in terms of the big ass branches of physics,
Right.
100 years old. Whereas Newton and gravity been around 400 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we find there's a deeper understanding of reality in which it's embedded. So in that sense, you're incomplete but not wrong. Okay.
Excellent.
So I don't know. Should one say that you're wrong in that case? I don't know. So because COVID-19 was novel in the
Right.
sense that it had not come around before.
By the way, that's what they called it at first. The novel,
The novel
coronavirus.
Correct. That's evidence that we were unfamiliar with its ways and means.
Right.
And the ways of how it works, how it gets transmitted, how communicable it is. All of these were uncertain at some level. The CDC, which is accustomed to just declaring what is true.
You were just named the best crypto exchange by Forbes. With high liquidity, your trades happen in seconds, not
Is trying to declare truths about something that is in progress in our understanding of how it behaves. So I think the public and agencies need to look back on that episode and think about how to approach that the next time.
Yeah.
And say, for example, you can say, here's what we know now based on the research available to us this week. Check back in a week. If there's more research papers that come in, we will update you. Okay? It will say, no, we thought this would work, but we have refined evidence that it'll work better if you add this regimen compared to that regimen. We realizing it's not transmitting on the surfaces as much as we thought.
Right.
You don't have to wash your groceries coming in.
Exactly.
But starting out that way, it might have been the case.
You never know.
You just never know
Right.
when you're on the frontier.
Yeah.
So scientifically, we're wrong all the time on the frontier. But once it gets verified, then it by multiple experiments, by multiple people, including your competitors,
Well, most importantly.
most importantly.
Because
Right?
they're the people, like I said, the greatest thing about science is it's filled with haters.
Exactly.
Science is filled with haters. And scientists are just like, oh, bring it on, haters.
Bring it
Yeah, check my work. No, like, yeah.
There's someone wrote an article, 100 against Einstein.
Right.
Okay, because the haters,
You're
right?
haters.
Okay, because they didn't want to believe relativity; it was too weird for them. And Einstein replied, I'm paraphrasing here. He says, "If I'm wrong, you wouldn't need 100 reasons for it. You would just need one." If you could, right?
Damn, that's a rap battle if I ever saw one.
That's the quote from Shakespeare. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. Yes.
Yeah.
Here's another way you can be wrong. You can be wrong and right at the same time. All right. So there's Claudius Ptolemy, Alexandrian mathematician, brilliant. And he codified the geocentric universe.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And how do you do that and still make sense of the world? Well, if Earth is in the middle and you look up in the sky and you see planets moving forward and then backwards, slow down and go back forward again, how do you explain that if you're in the middle? The planet must be making loops of its own. Thus was the codification of epicycles, where all planets, as they orbited the Earth, made loop-de-loops of their own. Because that's what we see in the night sky. So he codifies this. He was wrong as all get out.
And it made perfect sense.
But it's what it looked like.
yeah, look at that. We seeing it.
And he was humble about it, though.
Really?
In the margin of his book, which exists in the Arabic translation, because I think some of the original copies were burned when the Alexandria Library burned,
Right.
but it had already been translated and was in Baghdad. And it's known today by the Arabic title, Al-Majest.
Almagest.
The greatest.
Ooh.
Yes, people knew this was some badass stuff. So in the margin, how humble was he to write, when I trace at my pleasure the windings to and fro of the heavenly bodies, I no longer touch earth with my feet. I stand in the presence of Zeus himself and take my fill of ambrosia.
Wow.
He was feeling it.
He was high as I don't know what.
How'd you get high back then?
Yo,
What did they do?
everybody got high back then. Are you kidding me? There
think
were no
so?
laws against it. That's the great part.
So AD 150 that's what he penned that in the margins of his greatest work, in the manuscript.
That's pretty
of,
cool.
of his greatest work. So there it is. Now you can be wrong, but interestingly wrong. That triggers the work of other people.
Right.
He's on the frontier. So like I said, scientists on the frontier were wrong 90% of the time. He was wrong, but interestingly wrong, because using the epicycles, you could predict where the planets would be.
Exactly.
It had some utility.
Right.
1400 years later, Copernicus comes along, says maybe the sun is in the middle and not the earth. If you put the sun in the middle, you don't need the epicycles.
Right.
Because the planets
are doing their thing.
They're all down there.
They're all doing their thing.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, by the way, if you have epicycles, you have to declare that planets occasionally go backwards. They invented a word for that. The astrologers invented a word for that.
Oh yeah, it's Mercury in retrograde.
Retrograde.
Oh my God,
That's a little.
nothing about life is working. Mercury's in retrograde. Oh my God, give me a crystal. I need to make sure that my life gets right. Okay. Anyway, and listen, go ahead and hate me. I don't care.
What?
Please. Anyway.
You just indicted an entire demographic.
No, here's the thing.
What?
Here's my thing. You are welcome to believe whatever stupid thing you want. You are welcome to believe that. And I should have the right to say, look at you, dummy. That's the problem with the world today.
Okay.
Is that no one can stand up to any type of criticism.
I get it.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? Which is just somebody else is looking at you critically.
All right.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
So now here we go. So to have a word for when the thing goes backwards, when it's not actually going backwards,
Right.
is an interesting fact.
That is
And
interesting.
so, for example, if you're at NASCAR and you see the cars going around a circle, when it's on the other side of the track, you don't say it was going backwards.
Backwards, right.
There's not a special word for it
Right.
when it's on the other side of the sun,
Right.
coming back left and right. You don't invent words for that.
That's true.
It's
That's
going
true.
in the same
Same
it's going
direction,
forward at all
forward
times.
all times.
At all times.
Right.
Okay. So here's what's interesting. Copernicus says, let's put the sun in the middle. Epicycles. Even after he did that, were more accurate predicting the positions of the planets than his heliocentric model did.
Look at that.
I know. So, do you throw it out? If it's not as good as what was there before? Do you know why it didn't work?
No.
Because he presumed that the almighty creator of the universe, who
Zeus.
no, we're past Zeus now.
Oh,
Zeus
that's
was
right.
Ptolemy.
Zeus,
Okay,
yeah,
now
okay.
we're talking about he's Christian. Catholic.
Oh, okay.
He's Catholic.
All right.
This
All
is
right.
the middle of the 16th century.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All right.
Polish Catholic.
Right.
All right. So he presumed if God made the universe, what's the most perfect geometric shape?
Circle.
Circle. So planets are clearly moving in perfect
In
circles.
perfect circle.
Why would God make it work in move in any other shape?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because God is perfect.
Exactly. And a circle is perfect.
So it's got to be what
It's
God
got to be
wanted.
okay, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
So invoking deity as a motivating force for his scientific thinking. All right. It's not in perfect circles.
No.
That's why he wasn't getting the right answer. It would be another 50 years before Kepler, German mathematician, using data from Tycho Brahe. I practice that. I just want to show off.
Tycho Brahe.
Yeah, most people say Tycho Brahe.
Okay.
Tycho Brahe.
All right.
Okay, I worked that. I just want give me a pat on the back. Right
There
here.
you go.
Thank you.
Sounds like a sausage.
Tycho Brahe.
Tycho Brahe.
Tycho Brahe.
Okay.
A master observer of the night sky,
Okay.
and got data on where all the planets were and everything, and when they were where they were in the sky. Kepler used it, and after tortuously scratching his head over what it all meant, he finally landed on the fact that planets orbit in ellipses rather than in perfect circles. Bada bing, everything
And everything worked.
Everything worked out. Here's the point. Copernicus was wrong.
Right.
Ptolemy was wrong.
Yes.
Copernicus was wrong.
Yes.
But Ptolemy was more wrong, even though his model made better predictions. So this wrong thing is very weird when you're on the frontier. I'm just saying.
Within wrong, you can bracket a little bit of right.
Yes. Yes. Beautifully put. And Copernicus bracketed enough right to say, let's stick with this and see if something else needs adjustment. Let's go back 20 years.
All right. Just
Or-
20 years.
No,
Or a little more than 20 years.
30 years.
30 years.
Okay. Mid 1990s.
Okay.
There was the discovery of the first exoplanet.
Yeah.
Okay. So now watch. It was a pulsar planet. We're not thinking there's life there
Right.
because a pulsar is what's left over after the star blew up. We're not thinking life, but still a planet orbiting another star. This is an important result. And it was a little odd, but this planet orbited once every 365 days. That was a little weird.
Okay.
How do you get that? That's exactly our year.
Of course, yeah.
Other planets in our solar system don't have that orbit. And so these properties that were reported were oddly similar to Earth. The existence of this planet was inferred by its gravitational tugging on the pulsar itself. And pulsars have rapid pulses, so you can time it and know exactly if it's coming towards you or moving away. The timings of these pulses are exquisite clocks to check for this. Okay? And they inferred the presence of an Earth-like planet with a 365-day orbit. Headlines.
Earth 2.
Then, 6 months later, somebody looks back at the data. They had modeled Earth as a perfectly circular orbit around the sun.
Oh, that's not
Just
good.
to simplify it.
Right.
Sometimes you do that just to simplify the calculations.
Exactly.
But if that's your base model, then when Earth is closer to the sun, we're moving faster.
Exactly.
When we're farther from the sun, we're moving slower.
Right.
That signature got imprinted in the object we were observing. If you don't recognize that that's coming from you, you're going to project it into everything you see. It was egg on their faces.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Because they should have known better.
By the way, I understand why that's wrong. So they really cracked the bed.
However, this is science. Okay? If you're wrong, you don't want somebody else discovering that.
That's right.
They found it. They printed the retraction, and it was reported at the annual meeting of the American Astronomical Society, the retraction of that paper, and got a standing
And
ovation.
people were like, yo, way to go.
Way to go.
Way to be wrong. You stupid people. You're amazing. Oh, what amazing dummies you are.
So the applause was that they found
No,
the
they
error.
found the error.
They admitted the error, and
Yeah.
it's not a mark on his reputation.
Exactly.
But if you go to your grave saying, no, I was right, and people already know you're wrong,
Right.
give up, take on another profession.
Yeah. No, I love that story.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. That speaks volumes. I love it.
That's science at its best.
Yes.
Really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When it's at its worst, it's at its best.
Ooh.
Ooh. I need mics to drop.
I'll give you a fist
Oh,
bump.
fist bump.
There
That'll
you
work.
go.
So now, that's the frontier of science. Now, am I where this woman was trying to get me to say, when was the last time I was wrong? No, because I figured out finally I figured out what she meant.
What does she mean?
Is there something I believe really strongly with my heels dug in and I'm resisting evidence to the contrary?
Yeah.
Then I'd be wrong and embarrassed by that. She was going a new place that I think pervades in our society. There people are certain of what they think and will fight you if you think something different. And they can't be, if they are wrong, and they can't be convinced of it.
Well, see, that's the thing. Because when you have that belief, which is not scientific, because beliefs, as I have said, I don't believe this. I don't believe in science. I just believe the science.
Yes, it's not something to believe in.
It's not something to believe in.
Yeah. As I said, the good thing about science is true whether or not you believe in it.
Right.
And of course, what I mean by that is the science, not the frontier, because we're all wrong most of the time. It's after that filters in.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You can't just say, I want to repeal the law of gravity.
I don't believe it.
Because you gained 3 pounds last week.
Right. I don't believe it. Right.
Ate too many Big Macs.
Which, by the way, that is the defense, and you'll see people make this defense. I don't believe it.
Right. And so that was the category of belief that I think she was inquiring within me. And I carry no such beliefs that would be susceptible to that question. Because I am always
open to the possibility.
Yes. Because I'm a scientist and evidence matters.
Now, this is what everybody right now who is watching this.
Yes.
This is what they're all asking.
What's that?
So then do you leave open the possibility that there may be a God that
Of course.
created everything?
Of course. All the time.
Oh, snap.
No, that's not a snap
No,
thing.
wait a minute. We have just really opened up something. No one believes that about you.
Let's assume that there's something in me that we can call belief. Okay. The level of belief I place in something will always be proportional to the evidence that supports it. Imagine your whole life pivots on something that you believe is true.
Oh, I don't have to imagine that. That's already happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this might be the case, for example, in religions.
Yeah.
Okay. So Christianity pivots on the resurrection of Jesus. Okay.
I want to say, before you get into that, it's a lot that also stemmed from his girl situation. It's like, I'm pretty sure a handful of people, especially in relationships or just dealing with any female or really people in general, but definitely women. It's like some of them you just ain't no wrong with them. Like it's an accountability issue, or when you're trying to prove that you're right, or in some way or form, like you said, with the scientific way of it, in terms of other sciences coming up with theories that actually was accurate, but turned out after a while not to be as accurate once somebody else figured it out. That didn't necessarily mean that it was completely off, but they just wasn't on point. It wasn't complete. Like it was more to it. So with that being said, it's like common knowledge of just being a pure-hearted person. You're not really pure-hearted, logical person, because it's a difference on that. With just being pure-hearted, it's more so of a lot of emotion, which the female in his situation was dragging upon. Like she was trying to be more on the somewhat hypocritical side of things, like to where she's just trying to go against his mindset just because she have a certain belief or something. And what he's basically saying is he's open to hearing everything. He's unbiased. So he'll hear you out, but also let it be known what he knows. But on her end of the stick, it's like, I don't care what you know, is what I know. And there's certain people that you can actually talk to and really just realize, like, yeah, you can tell who's actually listening and who's just stuck on their beliefs. Like they already understood something to the point where they're just not trying to have it. And that's also more of the thing in the beginning of what I was saying as far as the pure-hearted thing. Mainly just being me, speaking up for myself, but at the same time, I know it's a few people that I can speak to that's also on the same time. And being unbiased gets you a long way. Don't get me wrong, in certain situations, you kind of do have to be biased on, you stand for something or you fall for anything. So I do understand that. But that don't mean you gotta, because there's certain things that you can't really stand for that you're probably standing for, just like how he said, and realize in the future, oh, that wasn't something worth standing for. So you're trying to stand for it, but that's like going with the wrong religion. Once you realize what religion to go to, yeah, that's just to sum that up too, though.
A major feature of Christianity, and belief in that is a major tenet of what it is to be a Christian. Suppose you had access to a time machine, and
Also, yeah, just like theory wise, because I do have certain theories on stuff that people just tend to be oblivious to and rather just not listen, like I said, because they rather listen to someone that is considered higher up rather than somebody that also been in the same place as them in terms of no certificate, paper, or whatever, however you declare a person certified. They learn just like I learned. So, of course, theories and certain things got to come from somewhere. That don't mean you just completely knock a person just because you feel like that ain't that. Because then once that person actually prove it to your face or become more certified, then you know you want to dick ride like that. That also gets repetitive.
you say, of all the events in the Earth history, what do you want to witness?
I want to go back to the day where the rock was rolled away.
Exactly. Okay, so
And
let's
they
say
said, the angel said, he is not here.
okay, so now you go back to that day
Uh-huh.
and you see thieves roll it away and steal the body. That would be information that would completely destabilize.
Crush everything.
That's right. So that's the extreme version of what I think she was asking me. When was the last time you were wrong? And she wanted to know how willingly would I give up thinking I was right. So that's an extreme. I give that just as an extreme
I got
case.
you. But from a neurological standpoint, it wouldn't make a difference to most people. They would enter a state of cognitive dissonance, and they would find a reason why that information that they see visually does not match with their belief, and then they would find a way to
extreme
reconcile
cases,
it.
so that they preserve
Exactly.
the belief. I think that's the most extreme example
Yeah.
of what it would be to have a belief challenged. And so if you bring evidence to me
Right.
that is compelling, either better evidence or more evidence, or ideally both,
Okay.
then I'll say, hey, I haven't thought about it that way. Thank you. I will be thankful to the person for calling that to my attention. So that's why I kind of looked like a dog hears a high-pitched sound when she asked that question. I said, well, stop. What? And then I had to work my way to realize what she meant by it. Because as a scientist, I don't want to say I delight in being wrong. I delight in being corrected.
Ooh.
That's a different.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yes. Correction always involves advancement and learning.
Yes.
Always.
At all times.
At all times.
Some people are so brilliant that even when they're wrong, they're right.
Okay, now you
Exactly.
sound like Scarface. I always
People don't
thought
like
the
to hear
truth,
that though, because
even when I lie.
I knew I needed to find a way to navigate the market with more confidence. That's when I discovered Kraken's educational.
Okay. So
people don't like to hear that at all, because especially for the ones who just be smart asses, like they think they know it all. One thing about it, like how he said, it's nothing wrong with being wrong. I just rather be corrected. It's a difference. People be trying to deem you to just be the outmost wrong, like you're dead ass wrong, when not knowing that there is a little right in that. So you have people that are, just typically nice, nasty dickheads. And that's the reason why, or just like I said, know-it-alls. And that's the reason why a lot of people just don't really consider liking people that swear they know it all. Like, I'm pretty sure a handful of people that's probably watching this video in this sense of just seeing this Discovery Channel type reaction that I'm doing right now and paid no mind for real in terms of what they said, just trying to get to the bottom of the root of what basically I was talking about. But for the ones who actually do, it's like you have more of an understanding to actually sit there and pay attention rather than just, go along with the theory of things or how other people try to make it. Like, you actually sit down and pay attention and see, okay, what is he actually speaking on thoroughly that will change my direction or at least help better my understanding if needed. But and also having enough discernment to be able to know what's right and wrong. Take it with a grain of salt. Like, you come on, like. But yeah, that's also Moral of the principle.
So Albert Einstein, when he wrote his general theory of relativity, which is the understanding of gravity and the structure of space-time across the universe, it would be applied that way by people like later than that theory.
Right.
He didn't do it all, but he laid the foundations for it.
Okay.
In his equation, there's a mathematical term that if it had a physical reality, it would be an anti-gravity force.
Are we talking the famous E equals MC squared
No,
equation?
no.
Oh,
Okay,
okay,
so
I was going to say.
this is an equation for the universe. And he said, well, all the galaxies in the universe.
That's brilliant. I already see it.
Wait. All
No,
the
but go ahead.
galaxies left to themselves would have the universe collapse onto
on
itself.
itself, right,
But,
so-
but we're not collapsing.
Right.
So this term would be this pressure force.
And also another disclaimer for the ones who actually do skim through. You do have someone that actually know how to skim through and get to the bottom of it. Don't get me wrong. That's you real advanced to do that. But you do have some ones that just skim through. It's a major difference. They're just having discernment with that too.
Pushing against everything, keeping it in balance. But we don't know anything that's doing that. And so he puts it in there because he has no other way to understand a universe that would not collapse.
Doesn't
on itself.
collapse.
Okay, he has no way to understand it. So he leaves it in. It's called the cosmological constant. And many, many decades later, by the way, when I'm in graduate school, when we calculate cosmology, we have to put in the constant and say it equals 0. You have to do that because it belongs in the equation. Okay? When Hubble discovered that the universe was expanding, then it's no longer a static universe, and he doesn't need the pressure to hold it up against collapsing.
You don't.
And then he said, then he discarded it as this non-physical thing that the math gave him, but it has no physical counterpart, and he called it his greatest blunder of his life.
Oh my goodness.
Until we discovered this negative gravity pressure in the universe, that it's called dark energy.
Exactly.
A Nobel Prize has been given for it.
Yeah.
A Nobel Prize was given for what he rejected. And so Einstein's biggest blunder was saying that was his biggest blunder.
Exactly. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. So anyhow, he was wrong, but right.
God, that guy was just so smart.
Yeah. Anyhow, we're done here.
All
We out.
right.
Thanks for joining us on an explainer on being wrong.
There you go. Go home, fellas. Tell your wife. You right, baby.
That's not what I said. That's not the lesson. That's not the takeaway here. All right. Till next time. Thanks, Chuck.
Pause. I gotta chill with chat. Y'all wildin'.
But see, I'm grown, so I don't even entertain that because I knew my intention.
You know what you
So I don't gotta say
So I shouldn't even say that shit.
I ain't saying that, but you only victim of what you entertain.
Okay.
I don't entertain that. Now, anybody else who feel like that, that's how they feel.
Yeah.
That's a complex. I don't have a complex. So I'm gonna say what I mean and mean what I say. I speak with conviction. So I know what I meant. My intentions of the heart. I'm a hell of an experience.
Yeah.
They got people that tell me, man, say, bro, when I sat in the passenger seat with you when you was driving, everything you do be so fly, and the wisdom and the knowledge that you give me about life, it made me a better person. I'm a hell of an experience.
Okay.
So what he talking about?
Yeah, they saying bullshit.
Yeah.
That saying bullshit. Okay.
No, that's not that. That's a kid.
That's a kid.
And then you gotta understand he got a complex. So because he got a complex, he's outwardly projecting. He has a fear of being, a pause or whatever you call it.
Yeah, like, okay.